I trust I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So in this last lecture, we looked at basic overview of data warehousing. As we said in the beginning, the course is about giving you overview of related concepts involved in big data analytics. So basically, author is basically covering each topic as an overview, giving you some idea, and then leave the field opens for you to do big dive in. And that is what the whole, if you look at each chapter of the book, is about 5 pages, 10 pages long. Just gives the basic idea and then move on to next. So we'll continue the same. So today we'll look at data mining techniques and overview. We had discussed a little bit when we started an introduction. We'll go a little more deeper, what is involved, what are the best practices, any myths or mistakes people make while doing data mining. So we'll look at those. We did cover about data transformation, that is data gathering, cleaning, transforming. We'll look at some cases, what needs to happen. We'll also look at one case, is data mining, when you do, is it being ethical? Does somebody have the right to do data mining? So that is a political or ethical debate, and I don't think anyone has answers, but one should be aware of what could be happening. And then how do we judge a given data model? When do we trust that the model we built is good enough or we need improvement? And that's what we basically discussed today. So what is basically data mining? We've been talking about it, and we would like to say, what do we mean by data mining? Anyone? Abhishek? Akshata?
It is just
Yeah.
uh, taking out useful data from a large data.
Can you be a little more precise? Useful data, yes. What do you mean by useful data? And can you give some example or something and indicate what that means?
Mm, for example, for a student, there are many details to be noted. For
Mm-hmm.
VTU, what we need is only USN.
Okay.
So we
But
just take USN instead of.
no, then that is not a data mining, but that is the key field or other field which is there. So what is there in data mining in that? I'm afraid that may not qualify as a good example. Looking at the VTU students, what could be the data mining give you? Indrasena?
That is what's like turning the raw data into making some sort of information which gives value
That's what I'm
and
saying. So given the VTU exam, given the students,
Hmm.
what is the data mining can give you?
Um, I think we can get his marks details, his placement details, and his personal details like address. All those are of no use to VTU, maybe. And
Yes.
VTU only cares is about their marks, and
Mm-hmm.
then
So that is part of the report. But what would data mining tell you? That's all about data. You get reports, what the mark, who is the topper, how many people passed, all that would be there. But what is the data? So that's what I'm coming to come to. What is the meaning of data mining?
Suppose we have a data of how many students passed or failed. Creating a chart using that data would be data mining. Basically, using
No,
processed data.
Creating a chart would call more of a report, business report or something.
And trying to overcome in the next year, like making some strategies in order to overcome that failure percentage, maybe date.
So
basically identifying patterns.
so identifying patterns, but what could the pattern be in case of VTU? In case of VTU student exams, what could be the pattern? Yes, identifying a pattern which could be of value would be good for data mining. But what could be the pattern?
Well, in case of USN, I guess the pattern would be for CS, it will be CS. So in case when a new student joins, we can take the existing USN and then increment that value, and we'll have the previous pattern.
See, when looking at the pattern, individual USN doesn't play a role.
Okay.
We're not looking at individual record.
Checking every year how many students have joined various branches.
So that could be one pattern. Which discipline is getting more interest among the students? So if you were to look at consistent patterns for last 4 or 5 years, you too might notice that the number of students joining mechanical is coming down. The number of people who like to opt for CS, and when you look at the joining, those people who opting for CS's number is higher. That would be one pattern. Other pattern they can look at may say that when you look at our reports, the initially toppers has been from metro cities like maybe Bangalore, Mysore, but slowly, I don't know true or wrong, right or wrong, but now you see the toppers, it is no particular place in Karnataka that you say that the toppers would come from. It's getting distributed. Or patterns could be 10 years ago, the toppers would be getting marks in the range of 90%, but now that trend, even if you get 80%, you could be the qualifying for a topper. Something of those kinds. Or pattern could be, you can look at electives. And when we offer an elective in a particular segment, let's say if there's an elective called data science, a lot more people write the exam, and elective called compiler design, that number of people who opt for compiler design as an elective are going down. So there may not be interest. And that is where the data mining comes in. So identify a pattern, find some information which tells you which you can use to turn around and make it put into the business. And that's essentially what you're looking at. So data mining is, you can say, art or a science of discovering some novel pattern, which can give you some insight, which can be useful, and then you can make use of it. Basic assumption is you have a past data, and using that past data, you can basically find some patterns, some information, and that basically you can make a business decision to go further. It could be seasonality of products. The last time I said, some schools in Europe and US, they did basically study it and the data mining that if mathematics is taught in morning hours, students do better than if mathematics is taught in the after lunch. So for those students who studied mathematics in the morning hours, they on the average got 7 to 10% more marks than those students who studied in the afternoon hours. And this is one data mining pattern you can look at. From a business shop perspective, it could be seasonality of products. If it is cold weather here, ACs won't sell. Or in Bangalore, neither AC sell that much nor heaters sell that much. But if you are in North India, in summertime, AC will sell very highly. And in winter, these. And you can look at when do they sell. People will not buy the maximum sale stockist would happen and need to do stockist in maybe March, because then that's when people start buying. If you plan to buy, oh, in summer has come, people demanding, if you place an order in June, by the time you get the stock, maybe July, you will not be able to sell. So looking at the time, looking at the way people buy things, you can plan your stock, you can plan your sales. And that's what we call as seasonality of products or specific customers with specific needs, something of that kind. Probably you can look at the, I probably noticed when I first moved to Bangalore, the number of chemist shop on the average I find in Bangalore was comparatively much higher than I could find in Delhi on the average. Maybe because weather, people have a lot more breathing problems. So people who have breathing problems, Bangalore is not a good place for them. Maybe pollen, maybe allergy, whatever. So look at it and plan things up. Now data mining, you basically use two techniques called supervised learning and unsupervised learning or explorative learning. The supervised learning, you know that you have a data about whom a decision is known or a classification that is known. For example, if you are looking at the customers, or like when you look at even the marks, if you do relative grading, then you know even if you get 10 marks, you can still pass out of 50 or out of 100, because you know maximum people get only 50 out of 100. So then you scale it up. So you can look at the pattern specifically, how things work out. You all probably do some kind of data mining while doing the exam. When you prepare for the exam, you look at the kind of questions, say, this question would come, this question would not come. Last time these kind of questions come, so they won't repeat. So trying to look at some pattern. What kind of question come in the last time and what kind of questions would come this time? Because normally it is assumed that whatever question came last year, it won't come this year. So probably doing a reverse data mining to figure out what you can get that. In exploratory or non-supervised learning, there's no decision known. You basically segment the data are put together, the data that looks similar. It could be based on income, based on gender for customers, or anything else. Or we can look at the characteristics, the length, height. So if we were to look at on the average length of height of Northeast people is comparatively lower than the length of the people from the Punjab or other places. So again, there are different patterns that one can look at. Other is association rules, and we given the example, which is normally stores uses, and common example give is, let's say people who buy bread and milk, they also buy butter or something similar. So few example of patterns, grocery stores, which said customers who buy cheese and milk would also buy bread. Is it always true? No. But what is the probability? Probability may be 80% or 90%. Knowing that, they know that 80% customer will buy them together, so store can plan, and typically either a store can keep it together or the store can keep them far apart. Why would a store keep them far apart? Because if you are very customer friendly, it makes sense to keep them together because that will make the life easy for the customer. But why would like to keep them far apart, knowing that they buy together anyway? Dikshita? Yeah, why would they keep it far apart? Kirti? Deepika? Akshata? Anybody else? Anup?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, why would the store keep items far apart, knowing that customers will buy them together?
Maybe when they move from one part of the store to the another part, so they might also choose different products in between. So there might be a
Precisely.
higher sale.
Precisely. The store knows that customer is anyway going to buy them together. So it doesn't matter where to keep them. If I keep one item in one corner, other item in another corner, customer is going to walk, and during this process, you might see more items and possibly buy more items. So customer want to increase their sales, and so they might keep it far apart. And that's what is typically you find in the large store, items which are kind of bought together, they're kept far apart. And this is the reason. They want to increase their sales. Medical, again, another association, one can say if you are a BP of 160 plus, you are age greater than 65 years, then you have a very strong chance of getting heart stroke. And then doctors can, knowing that you are a senior person and BP is higher, doctor can take urgent action or treatment and say, take ecosprin or other medicines to make sure that BP remains in control. Something of that kind. You can look at the patterns. It's normally believed that the student who study regularly get higher marks. Generally believed. Is it true or false? One can prove with the data, look at some analysis, and then work it out. The other side is people either who sleep early or sleep late, they do better in exams. Because the reason is people who get up early, they get dedicated time undisturbed. People who sleep late, they get again undisturbed time. So probably they can spend focused time in studying rather than the routine pattern. If you sleep at just 11 o'clock and get up at 7 o'clock, you are not getting undisturbed time. Something other would happen. So these are the other examples you can look at the way patterns would basically work. There was a classic case of data mining or pattern analysis in a Target store. How many of you heard about this Target caselet? Anyone heard about this Target story? They're building a model. So Target store is one of the largest superstore. It sells all kind of things, clothing, equipment, grocery, you name it, toiletries, all kind of things. So they basically build a data mining model to predict the pregnancy score. People who are not there, maybe they can go on mute. And what Target did was, they basically looked at identified some 25 items, and they say if somebody buys these items in a short span of time, chances of that particular customer pregnant, they build that kind of model. And knowing that if customer is buying some of these items, then they can recommend other items. And this can help them marketing and advertising campaigns because they can send mailers to your house, to your emails. If you buy this, you'll get 10% discount or 20% discount and so on and so forth. They built their model, and what happened is using that model, they sent one of the flyers to one of the girls, with a teenage girl, and indicating that you can buy things. The flyer or the mailer was basically say you can buy baby clothes or baby crepes or something and you can get some discount. When her father saw that, it became very angry. He says, my daughter is unmarried, why Target is trying to sell something? He goes to the store, shouts at the manager, what kind of mail are you trying to send? Are you trying to encourage my daughter to get into this kind of things? Store manager doesn't know what to say because it became a very unpredictable situation. Maybe saying sorry, maybe mistake or something. But later on, it figured out the girl was really pregnant, and the prediction model for target worked well. So what to buy things, they could really work out. But the question remains, do Target or anything else have their full right on the data you buy to market, sell you, whatever that is? But notice, you watch one movie or one clip on YouTube video, you get similar looking movies encouraging you more, or do you want to watch this or something of that kind? And then sometimes it could be an embarrassing situation. I never wanted to see those things on my recommendation site. So again, one has to look at how much data mining to do. That's the ethical question, but that remains to look at the way things will work out. So how does data mining really work? First and foremost is you need to know where to do data mining. If I want to go for fishing, catch fish, I cannot go and catch fish anywhere. I should know the streams of river or water, wherever, that where the fish are likely to be available. There are few fixed spots and going anywhere, you will not catch any fish. Same way, you should know where to look for a data, what I need to do. Am I looking at the right place? If I'm not looking at the right place, I probably won't get anything and my all effort would basically be wasted. So one should be aware of where to look for the right data. That itself is an art, and what I need to ignore, what I need to gain. If you look at the pattern, could I sell coffee a lot more in North India? Possibly no, because tea is a lot more prevalent than coffee. Here, coffee is probably more prevalent. So you look at data mining and gather what, if I'm looking at the pattern and try to keep looking at the places, the people who drink coffee in North India, you probably find very few places data may not be useful. So one should know where to gather the data from, what to ignore, and data may not come from one source. It may come from multiple sources. In fact, data mining is a hotbed today for at least the elections management. And you know why Prashant Kishore has become very, very popular? Because people know he can run the campaign, targeted campaign. Knowing the trends, and that's where the Cambridge Analytica and UK somehow got into controversies, because looking at the customer preference, they can tell you who's going to vote for whom. And this matters a lot. So one has to analyze the data. That becomes, so depending on how much value you can bring, the business or value can go equally much higher. And once you get your data, you probably start building a model. So first key resource, when you look at any project or anything, if you start looking at, somebody says you are doing the machine learning, data mining analysis, the first question we normally ask as a faculty is, where are you going to get data from? And if you simply give an answer to get from Kaggle, next question is it really genuine or is it synthetic? Because synthetic data has no value. So can you get realistic data and then build a model that will be useful? If you look at US government, data.gov provides good enough data from federal state government. For India government, you have a site data.gov.in, which gives data from all kinds of agencies. And you can figure out what is happening. A lot of data mining was done for COVID, second wave, third wave, and none of them turned out to be correct. People keep saying. And in fact, there are people who did other way out. So looking at these charts will tell you when this will be over and this will not be over. Some of them also turned out to be correct. So maybe there is a data, some kind of astrological predictions, but we don't know how good or bad that is. That depends on intelligence. So when I do data mining, what is that one has to look for? To make sure that you are trying to solve the right business problem. Right business problem meaning when you can address something, then business can drive significant benefit out of it. And then only business would support it, otherwise no. Getting the right data is crucial for any decision making. Getting a wrong data, you probably not get garbage in and garbage out. But there are different data sources we get data from. It could be your database, which is corporate, which is one of the authentic one. You can get blogs, different images, and all kind of sources like videos. Now, when I was looking at a hackathon last year, one of the problem was, given the photograph, can you identify the person? Because once they get a photo in a crime scene, the photo is very much damaged, or because person is soaked with blood, something of that kind, disfigured. So can you identify the person? So identifying a person itself becomes a problem. And then they basically says, looking at the social media, looking at the blog, looking at the all the kind of Facebook, Instagram, other places, can you do data mining and figure out who the person is? So that will help police trace out. Missing children, another area which is a very good place, doing a very high value to police for data mining, something of that kind. Looking at chats, you build chatbots, figure out is person depressed, not depressed. Those again kind of use a sentimental analysis that all become part of data mining. Now, who could be a data miner? He could be the end user or analyst who's trying to work upon it. Even end user, he may not have data mining skills, but basic using Excel, otherwise, it can still do good amount of wonders. All you need to do is you should know that, am I really using the right data? Let's say you are studying the whole, I told you there is a course on data analytics, or reading this, but you don't even know what syllabus or what kind of pattern it is, or how the marks would be, then you end up losing out. So to think properly what we need to do, and then what kind of tools one like to use. Even you may have data, but you have a data of the right quality. When it's a quality of data, that there are no errors in the data, can data be relied upon? It could be missing values. For example, let's say I'm measuring height and weights, and somebody says, on the average, a lot of people have a height of 7 feet. It's very, very unlikely. 1 or 2 cases, maybe yes. But if out of 1,000, I get 100 records with 7 feet, we know the data is not right. And then anything you do will not really work out. So to make sure that data you get is really good one, because if you get a junk data, your results would be junk and it really would have no value. If you get data from internal sources, when I get data from college, marks, something, that certainly would be higher quality. Data from other sources, social media, because people can write anything and that nobody could question them. So when you look at data on social media, so in general, if there are too many people, then yes, there could be fake campaign going on. But so you have to give a different factor, how much to trust and what quality values you like to give to given data. Having the data available, you need to do at least basic cleaning, sorting it out, making it set all right, looking at the outliers, filling the missing values, the number of duplicate records, there isn't any value, you remove those. If there are outliers, as I said, height is 8 feet, which is an outlier, unlikely. So can you rename or correct or fix those values? Sometimes you need to change even the values field. Let's say you're asking people to measure heights. Some people measure height in inches, some people measure height in centimeters. They just give you the numbers. Now both are correct, but units are different. To make sure that when you do the analysis, you need to have the same unit. Otherwise, your whole model will basically go for a toss. Sometimes data may have inherent bias. If I'm looking at something and see my 80% data comes from one particular gender, either 80% participants are male or female, it doesn't work out. Like using your seniors data, I did some data mining. This was, I think, about a year ago as a batch, or year and a half ago, when I taught machine learning to a seniors batch. Using the attendance record in the class, the actual attendance, and not what did I say, the compulsory attendance. I attended this seminar, I went for this sport. So I'm saying, looking at the actual attendance in the class, and looking at the actual marks as students got in internal exam, I could predict two things with about 75% accuracy. One is that if you give me the attendance and the marks, I can tell you whether the student is a boy or a girl with 70% accuracy. With 70% accuracy, I could also tell whether the person got placement or not. Where my data mining failed completely was whether it's a day scholar or a hostler. Why this failed? Because data was too biased. It was biased in the sense that 90% people were day scholars and only few were hostlers. It was completely biased in terms of day scholars. So any data mining is not going to give me good results. But why did it give me good results for identifying boy or girl? Because it was equally distributed, almost 55 or 45%, the same as to placements. So to make sure that data is not biased in particular direction or particular dimension, and if so, it would take into the account. Otherwise, results would not be really right. In data mining, getting the right data, or even if you got the data, you need to clean it up, transform it. That makes it about 70% of your job. Sometimes I say, I'm not interested in doing this junk work. When a software developer, testing is part of a job, you need to do that. Otherwise, you cannot be a developer. Same way, data mining, when you're doing data cleaning is part of your job, and you should be ready to spend 60 to 80% time in cleaning the data. As I said, because units of data could be different from different sources, you need to transform them. For example, if hospital is looking at the cost, it knows the patients, it look at the amount money paid, but you want to look at what is the cost per patient. That is more important than looking at the overall cost for a given patient. Currency value, if I'm looking at how the salary has been, if I'm looking at data for last 10 years, so simply comparing salary of 10 years ago versus today is meaningless because inflation has taken into the account. Has the salary really increased? It may increase in numbers, but qualitatively it really hasn't. When I look at the salary of our mass recruiters like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, all that, what salary they offered 6 years ago is roughly about the same. So actually they are paying less than what they used to pay. The numbers happen to be still the same, around 3.5 lakh or so and so forth. Or if you're looking at currency, country looking at how the different people are, some country the currency would be in rupees, some for it would be in dollars, some would be in euros. You need to get it to common currency, convert that. That also needs to happen. Or depending on business context, you need to look at the right granularity. If you're looking at sales number, this we want to look at daily basis. When it comes to salary and performance, you want to look at monthly numbers because there is no way you can get salary on daily basis or something of that kind. So we'll look at few of the techniques, little more detail. Supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Supervised learning belongs to again two cases: classification and regression, which basically the statistics. And the classification, supervised learning, classification or regression basically means you know the result beforehand and to put a new value. Other is unsupervised learning, where you basically find clusters and then trying to deal with that. So we'll look at decision trees, we will look at regression, and then we look at clustering, other examples, maybe in the next class. So as we said, in data mining, we want to look at the patterns, sports team who could win, and this always guess happens. Can we predict? So always look at the weather and how did they predict? They look at their different models. They try to build looking at history of last 100 years, 50 years, and say whether it will be more rainfall, less rainfall, or temperature shifting or something of that kind. Or like when say if you can predict that there's a storm or cyclone, and then you can probably save lives. This probably happened in cyclone Yas or cyclone Amphan. If you don't know, then losses could be much, much higher. But you have to make sure that these patterns you do, you find probably some kind of correlation. It basically became famous when somebody predicted the correlation between sale of diapers and sale of beer. There's a lot of controversies, but as a pattern analysis, it became a lot more popular when first time in about, I think, 20 years ago, so everywhere you'll find about sale of beers and diapers, the correlation there, this is called association rule. So we like to do data mining to find out the real internal patterns which could be of value to us. And once we know, we can fine tune our business and get more mileage or more value out of the money we're trying to put it in. And one has to be smart enough to look at what kind of data which come from different places, what is the technologies we need to use, and one has to look at it becoming more and more popular because earlier, 10 years ago, our computing and storage costs were much higher. Today, computing is cheap, storage cheaper, and hence we can probably do a lot more data mining than before today. So the machine learning or AI has been in existence since I started studying, way back in late 70s, early 80s. But computing was cost is too high, it never took off. Now because computing has become much cheaper, hence the ML and AI has become a lot more popular and a lot more meaningful. So when you look at supervised learning, essentially means we have a data with known results, which is called labels. For example, when teacher, the grades, so you can say given the mark, given the subject, this teacher is going to give this many grades, low grades or high grades. A classification is given categories, you need to classify the input. So once you get unknown data, you want to classify where it is. But you want to be sure that when you're predicting, what is the predictive accuracy? Because the predictive accuracy is not good, then prediction model doesn't really work. So how do you decide the predictive accuracy? The predictive accuracy can work for supervised learning, but no such thing for unsupervised learning. We only do clustering, and all that we do is can you group together and try to find out. The supervised learning is basically consists of two steps. One is to train the data, and having trained the data, then you want to basically use test data. When you're using a training data, you build your model, and typical ratio is could be if you're given n number of records, typically 70% to train or build your model and 30% to test, or any 80-20 or depending on what the setup is. And accuracy is when you have a test data, you know the results, but using the model you want to verify what your test results are. And so number classification versus number of total test cases would give you accuracy. You can also find predictive accuracy by using a confusion matrix. I'm sure you would have studied. So given label, you know whether true or false, and what you predicted and what actually it was. So it could be true positive, meaning you predicted true and label was true, positive. False positive would be meaning the actual value was false, but you predicted true. Other is false negative and true negative. Actual case was true, but you happen to predict false, and true negative. So really negative, you predicted negative, so you are fine. So I'll give a simple example of confusion matrix. An accuracy would be look at total true positive cases and true negative cases and total number of cases. You know what the predictive accuracy is. Just for a hypothetical case, consider that 1,000 people were tested using RT-PCR. Let's assume that 10% of the people are COVID positive in our population. Just an assumption. And this is what happened with RT-PCR test. That 80 people, when you test 1,000 people, 80 are declared as true positive and 20 are true negative, and 720 are false negative, and 120, 180 are false positive. That means 180 people were declared positive, though they were not. And so 720 were really negative and they're declared negative. So what would be my predictive accuracy given this case? Using the confusion matrix, total cases is 1000. What I can say about my RT-PCR test given this data? But I know that 10% of COVID positive, that means out of 1000, 100 would be COVID positive. But this is what my testing basically gave me. And I would like to work out. If we look at predictive accuracy is number of true positive plus number of the false negative, that is what will basically, because you need to look at which are the cases which were predicted correctly. People who were COVID positive, out of 100, 80 were predicted true positive. People who were COVID negative, 720 were detected as negative. So these are the false values, these are the correct values. So if we look at the predictive accuracy, it will be 80 plus 720 by 1000. And that basically means my predictive accuracy of RT-PCR is 80%. I'm just taking a number because even I've seen cases that even though RT-PCR says negative or positive, a person may be otherwise. Especially it becomes problematic case when I know my elder brother who was tested negative, but he has all kind of chest infections, everything, was hospitalized, his X-ray shows he is COVID, but RT-PCR came as negative. So, okay to get positive detected, but getting detected negative could be much worse because one could be spreading. So one like to know how good our accuracy of our data we are trying to predict. So one has to be concerned about how do you evaluate our data mining results, how good our results are. One would like to get 100% accuracy, but that certainly is not going to happen. So what is the value we can look at? In general, for data mining, if our predictive accuracy is more than 70%, it's considered good. Now, is there any such number for non-supervised learning? Answer is no. Non-supervised learning, there is no such things that what is the right accuracy level. All you are trying to do is find out the grouping together and nothing more than that. Now we look at two cases, the technique that we use. You probably all use called decision tree. So you have a number of variables as their values. You build a decision tree. Objective is to build decision tree of the smallest height because you can quickly arrive at the results. So probably look at the most probable variable, look at the answers, then look at next most probable, or there could be different ways techniques. Now decision tree is very popular machine learning technique mainly because it is easy to understand. It's simply case, look at you have a variable 1, what the value observed, follow branch 1, branch 2, branch 3, quick, you follow that and you basically get the result. And because it is easy to follow and implement, it's very popular. And in general, unless you are doing an overfitting, it has a high accuracy rate. The way it works is, it takes most important variable on the top and then less important variable and so on and so forth, and that is how it works. Further, even if some data is low quality training data, it can still work around because working with probabilistic model, it still works well. So even if some data is bad, it can still take care of it and still give you good corrective results. And there are many algorithms that you studied in decision tree. Possibly you studied ID3, and we will look at when you get into more details of decision tree. Another technique you look at is regression analysis, and I'll probably give you my hypothetical generated example. In regression analysis, You basically given a data point, you want to find the best fitting curve. So your regression tool or results are as good as your data is. If your data is incorrect, your model would be completely incorrect. So high quality data is very important for regression analysis. You want to find a well-defined smooth curve. As I said, data depends on data set used and not upon the algorithm. If you have a wrong data, incorrect data, the probably model would be wrong one. Simple example regression analysis is predict energy consumption by temperature. You probably know if temperature is very low, energy consumption would be high. So probably a graph would be something like this. Let's say this is the temperature axis, and this is your energy consumption in the house. Let's say my 0 degrees centigrade to let's say 45, 50 degrees centigrade. So probably curve would look something like this. Because lower the temperature, you end up doing heating that will consume more energy. If temperature is around 25 to 30 range, you probably neither use ACs nor you use heaters. And when temperature goes high, you start using ACs and more energy consumption would go higher. After some point in time, it will flat. So given the data point of temperature versus energy consumption, you could basically build a model and work with that. So this is a non-linear regression analysis. Building a non-linear is tougher, so mostly people end up building what is called a linear regression tool. So I'll give a simple example how to look like, and depending on data gets added, this will keep getting refined. For example, let's say we have x and y variable. So this is my x, and this is my y variable. These are the actual values, x1, y is this, and these are the observed values, y prime. So these are the observed values, and you build a model. If you build a model, you can very much put a straight line, and you can say my weight factor would be W0 W1x, where W0 0 and W1 is y. So it becomes y is equal to x. So if you look at the equation, this equation says y is equal to x. With this data set, this is fine because the error rate is much higher. When you get the next variable, your x is 4, y is 2.25, but what the model would give you is actually 4. So error happens to be much higher, and point is somewhere here. Your point would be somewhere here, and this will give you much higher error. So probably do mean square error, y minus y prime, actual versus observed, and the value is way too high. Then you want to say, okay, the y is equal to x may not be right equation. You probably want to go to better equation so that this error could be reduced. You would like to reduce this error. And then you take a different values for constants, and you probably would say, then I would say y is equal to 0.5 plus 0.5x. When I do that, using that, I see a little better results. Instead of 3.068, my error happens to be comparatively lower. So we say these constants are better. If I get new data, let's say I get the new data. Now my model again becomes incorrect because I get much higher error. So can I get a new constant? So you basically look at the values I'm trying to do. My regression model is the linear regression, depends on data. More data I get, my constant might be changing. So the following is the graph. You can basically see this one multiple 3 models. It gives very good perfect fitting, but the moment you got new data point, you know this model is not going to give me right results. So you probably build another one. Then I get the third result. Then we know we both have error. So my graph should look somewhere like this. You define the constant as a continuous process. So depending on the data you got, you'll basically get that kind of results. And this is regression analysis. So just to summarize what we studied, we basically identified data mining as identifying pattern which has some value which can be used by business. We also looked at a case study of Target store in the US, where they built a pregnancy prediction score and they could correctly predict based on the items somebody is buying from the store. Of course, it leads to some controversy, but that is beside the point. But data mining can be used. As I said, you can look at you do data mining everyday basis, look at the last year question papers, you try to predict what would the question paper would be this be. It's a prediction model. But for any data mining, need to data transformation, because you always don't get the data in the right form. Either to do conversion, or to remove duplicate data, you need to probably remove the outliers or fill in the missing values and so on and so forth. Then there are different number of techniques, and we looked at two techniques: basic study, decision tree, and regression analysis. And decision tree is popular because it gives a good predictive accuracy and easy to understand and implement both ways. That's all for today. And tomorrow we'll get into more details of others. We'll look at benefits and techniques of ANN. And we'll look at other techniques, clustering like K-means, how the clustering work, basic idea. And then next week we start looking at data visualization. Thank you. Let me take attendance and then we'll basically close. Afreen,
Present, sir.
Abhishek Goda,
Present, sir.
Akshata,
Present, sir.
Akshita,
Present, sir.
Amog,
Present, sir.
Amogha,
Present, sir.
Amrita,
Present, sir.
Anu,
Yes, sir.
Anusha,
Present, sir.
Anusri, Asis,
Present, sir.
Present, sir.
Lakshmi,
Yes, sir.
Sir, Anush, present, sir.
Anusri. Oh, thank you. Bhavesh,
Present, sir.
Chatra, Chatra, Chandana,
Present, sir.
Channa Keswa, Darshan, Dikshita, Deepika,
Sir.
Divya, Ganesh GB,
Present, sir.
Ganesh,
Present, sir.
Gautam,
Present, sir.
H. Priyanka, Hanumesh,
Present, sir.
Harshita, Hanumesh,
Present, sir.
Present, sir. Anumesh.
Sir,
Harshita,
present. Present, sir.
Indrasena,
Present, sir.
Karan Raghunath,
Yes, sir.
Karthik TC, Kavita,
Present, sir.
Kirti,
Present, sir.
Kritika,
Present, sir.
Lavanya,
Yes, sir.
Lokesh,
Present, sir.
Manjunath, Meghna CV,
Present, sir.
Present, sir.
Meghna G,
Present, sir.
Meghna CR, Meghna GR,
Present, sir.
Monica,
Present, sir.
Neha,
Present, sir.
Nikhil,
Yes, sir.
Nikita,
Present, sir.
Nischita,
Sir.
Nitish,
Yes, sir.
Naidal,
Present, sir.
Kishore, Sri Raksha, Kritika BM, Meghna HS,
Present, sir.
Lakshmi KV,
Present, sir.
Sasank.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.